Marcus Stone hadn't meant to become the best hunter on Kepler 742b. 5 years of solitude in the pristine wilderness of humanity's newest colony world had simply honed his skills to razor sharpness. The morning mist curled around his boots as he tracked fresh prints in the violet soil, his modified pulse rifle held ready. The tracks weren't from any creature he recognized. After half a decade cataloging every species in his territory, that alone made his heart race. The impression was delicate but deep, something bipedal and lightweight, but tall. Definitely not human. His comm unit crackled with the daily colony broadcast. Reminder to all outpost residents, report any unusual readings or sightings to colonial security immediately. Maintain standard quarantine protocols. Marcus ignored it, as he had for years. The colony's paranoia about alien contamination had driven him to this isolated existence in the first place. Here in the wilderness, he answered only to himself. The tracks led him to a small clearing where the strange purple vegetation had been crushed in a rough circle. Signs of a landing site, but no ship was visible. Marcus crouched to examine crystalline shards scattered across the ground, definitely not natural formation. A soft whimper froze him in place. Behind a curtain of hanging vines, he found her. The alien was humanoid but clearly not human. Her skin had a pearl-like iridescence, and delicate fins ran along her forearms. She was clutching a wound in her side that leaked silvery fluid. Her large, opalescent eyes fixed on his weapon. "Please," she whispered in perfect English. "They're coming." Marcus's training screamed at him to report this immediately. Colonial security would lock down the entire sector. The alien would be captured, quarantined, probably dissected. She was, after all, the first sentient alien life humanity had ever encountered. Instead, he slung his rifle and reached for his medkit. "I'm Marcus. Let me help you." "Neri," she replied, relaxing slightly. "My ship, they shot me down. The Void Hunters. They cannot find what's hidden here." "Void Hunters? Mercenaries. Scavengers." She winced as he applied a sealing gel to her wound. "They seek the beacon. But they don't understand. It was meant for both our kinds to find together." The sound of distant engines made them both tense. Neri tried to stand but stumbled. Without hesitation, Marcus swept her into his arms. "My cabin's not far. We'll talk more there." As he carried her through the misty forest, Marcus realized his life of solitude had just become considerably more complicated. He'd set out that morning hunting for breakfast, but instead found himself caught up in something far bigger than he could imagine. In the distance, dark shapes began descending through the clouds. The Void Hunters had arrived, and with them, the end of peace on Kepler 742b. But as Neri's hand gripped his shoulder and her otherworldly eyes met his, Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced in years: purpose. The universe, it seemed, had other plans for the lonely hunter of Kepler 742b. And for the first time since he'd fled to the wilderness, Marcus Stone was glad of it. Back in his cabin, Marcus worked quickly to properly treat Neri's wound. The alien technology embedded in her suit had already started the healing process, but she was weak from blood loss. As he worked, she told him of her people, the Lumini, a species of explorers and scientists who had been watching humanity's development from afar. "We knew this day would come," she said, her voice gaining strength. "The beacon called to both our species. The ancients who built it, they knew we would need each other." "Need each other for what?" Marcus asked, securing the last bandage. Neri's expression darkened. "To face what's coming. The Void Hunters are just the beginning. There's a darkness between the stars, Marcus. One that only our species, working together, can hope to stop." The cabin's proximity sensors chimed a warning. Multiple vessels were entering the area. Marcus checked his rifle's charge and peered out the window at the approaching ships. They were unlike anything he'd ever seen, obsidian black, with predatory lines that spoke of their maker's intent. "They're here," Neri whispered, struggling to her feet. "The beacon, we have to reach it first. Everything depends on it." Marcus Stone had come to Kepler 742b to escape humanity's conflicts. Now he found himself facing an interstellar war. But as he helped Neri prepare for their escape into the deeper wilderness, he realized he wouldn't have it any other way. The hunt was on. But this time, he wasn't the hunter, he was the guardian. And somewhere in the violet forests of Kepler 742b, an ancient power waited to be awakened by the unlikely partnership of a human outcast and a Lumini scientist. The Void Hunters would soon learn that some prey bites back. Dawn broke over Kepler 742b's violet forests as Marcus and Neri fled deeper into the uncharted wilderness. The Void Hunters' ships had been circling for hours, their dark silhouettes casting ominous shadows across the landscape. Marcus led them through hidden ravines and underground passages he discovered over his years of isolation. "Your knowledge of this terrain is remarkable," Neri observed, her iridescent skin shifting colors with the changing light. She moved with increasing strength, her advanced biology and suit technology having accelerated her healing. "5 years of hunting gives you an edge," Marcus replied, checking their pursuers' positions on his modified scanner. "Though I usually track local wildlife, not avoid space mercenaries." They paused at the entrance of an ancient cave system. Marcus had always avoided these caves, something about them felt wrong, artificial. Now he knew why. Neri's opalescent eyes widened as she studied the weathered markings around the entrance. "The architects were here," she breathed, running her fingers along symbols that began to glow at her touch. "These caves, they're not natural formations. They're part of a vast network." "The same ones who built the beacon?" Marcus asked, securing their perimeter. Neri nodded. "An ancient race that saw something coming, a threat so vast it made them hide their most powerful technologies across countless worlds. They knew that only by bringing different species together could their legacy be properly understood and used." A distant explosion rocked the ground. The Void Hunters were getting closer, systematically destroying potential hiding spots. Marcus ushered Neri into the cave system, and the entrance sealed behind them, responding to some unseen mechanism. The tunnel walls came alive with soft bioluminescence, creating patterns that seemed to flow like liquid light. As they ventured deeper, Marcus noticed how the architecture seemed designed to accommodate beings of various sizes and forms, as if the builders had known their creation would one day serve multiple species. "The architects believed in convergent evolution," Neri explained, reading his thoughts. "They seeded countless worlds with life, guiding development toward forms that could work together. Humans and Lumini, our compatibility isn't an accident." Marcus thought about how naturally they'd fallen into sync, how easily they communicated. "Your people have been watching Earth for a long time, haven't they?" "Since your first radio signals," she admitted. "We knew you were the ones we'd been waiting for. Your adaptability, your determination, the architects chose well." They emerged into a vast chamber that took Marcus's breath away. Crystalline structures rose from floor to ceiling, each pulsing with internal light. At the center stood a pillar of what looked like liquid metal, constantly shifting and flowing. Neri approached it reverently. A data core. The architect's knowledge, everything they knew about what's coming. She placed her hand on the surface, and the liquid metal responded, forming complex patterns. Marcus joined her, and when his hand touched the surface alongside hers, the entire chamber transformed. Holographic displays sprang to life, showing star maps, technical diagrams, and something that made both of them step back in horror, a massive dark mass moving between the galaxies, consuming everything in its path. "The Devourers," Neri whispered. "That's what's coming. The Void Hunters work for them, preparing worlds for their arrival. They don't even know they're serving their own destruction." The chamber shuddered as explosions sounded closer. The Void Hunters had found them. Marcus checked his weapon and surveyed the chamber's defensive positions. How long until these devourers arrive? Months, perhaps a year. Neri's fingers flew over the holographic controls. The beacon is the key to stopping them, but it needs both human and Lumini genetic markers to activate. The architects built it that way deliberately, forcing cooperation between species. Marcus smiled grimly. Clever of them. Hard to fight cosmic horror when you're too busy fighting each other. A section of the wall exploded inward, and dark armored figures began pouring through. The Void Hunters had arrived. Marcus took position behind a crystal formation, his pulse rifle ready. Please tell me this place has defenses. Neri's hands connected with another control surface. The architects never believed in weapons, but they did believe in protection. The chamber's crystals pulsed with increasing intensity as Marcus engaged the first wave of Void Hunters. His years of hunting served him well, each shot found its mark with deadly precision. But there were so many of them. Just as they were about to be overwhelmed, the chamber itself came alive. Crystal formations shifted and moved, creating barriers and forcing the Void Hunters back. The liquid metal column expanded, tendrils of living metal reaching out to entangle their attackers. The chamber's buying us time, Neri called out. But we need to reach the beacon. Everything we need is in here. She held up a crystal that seemed to contain swirling galaxies within it. The knowledge, the activation codes, we can stop them. Marcus fought his way to her side, and they retreated deeper into the complex through a passage that sealed itself behind them. As they ran, the weight of their discovery pressed upon them. Two species, meant to find each other, meant to face a threat to all life together. Still glad you didn't shoot me when you found me? Neri asked as they fled deeper into the ancient complex. Marcus laughed despite their dire situation. Let's save the galaxy first, then we can discuss my life choices. Behind them, the Void Hunters pressed their attack, unaware they were fighting against their own salvation. Ahead lay the beacon, and with it, the fate of all life in the galaxy. The hunt had become a race against time itself. The ancient tunnels seemed to pulse with growing energy as Marcus and Neri raced toward the beacon's coordinates. The crystal Neri carried cast ethereal light patterns across the walls, responding to something deep within the planet's core. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit echoed through the complex. The Void Hunters weren't giving up. Something's wrong, Neri said suddenly, her pace slowing as she studied the crystal more closely. The energy signatures, they're not matching the architect's records. Marcus took up a defensive position at an intersection, checking their backs. Wrong how? The beacon's power levels are exponentially higher than they should be. Her opalescent eyes widened with realization. It's been absorbing energy for millennia, far longer than planned. If we activate it without proper calibration. An explosion rocked the tunnel, cutting her off. Through the smoke, a massive figure emerged, nearly 8 feet tall, encased in obsidian armor that seemed to drink in light itself. The Void Hunter commander. The Lumini scientist and her human pet, a voice like grinding metal emerged from the armor. Surrender the crystal, and your deaths will be quick. Marcus answered with his pulse rifle, but the shots dissipated harmlessly against the commander's armor. The massive figure moved with impossible speed, closing the distance in seconds. Marcus barely managed to dodge a strike that left a crater in the wall behind him. Neri pressed her hand against a seemingly blank wall section, and crystalline formations erupted from it, temporarily trapping the commander. Run, she shouted. The beacon chamber is close. They sprinted through twisting corridors as more Void Hunters joined the pursuit. The crystal in Neri's hands pulsed with increasing intensity, its light synchronizing with Marcus's heartbeat. The connection between human and Lumini, he realized, was growing stronger. They burst into a vast spherical chamber that took Marcus's breath away. At its center, suspended in a column of pure energy, hovered a geometric shape that seemed to exist in more dimensions than should be possible. The beacon. Its surface shifted and flowed like liquid metal, but with patterns that hurt his eyes to look at directly. By the first light, Neri breathed. The containment field is barely holding. All this time, it's been building power, waiting. The chamber's entrance exploded inward as the Void Hunter commander burst through, followed by his troops. "You don't understand what you're interfering with," the commander growled. "The Devourers are inevitable. Serving them is the only way to survive." "Wrong," Marcus said, standing protectively in front of Neri as she worked with the chamber's controls. "The architects knew better. That's why they chose us, humans and Lumini together. We don't submit to the inevitable. We fight it." The commander laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Idealistic fool. The architects are dead. Their plan failed." "No," Neri called out, her hands dancing over crystalline controls. "They're not dead. They evolved. Transcended." She looked at Marcus meaningfully. "The beacon isn't just a weapon. It's a key to ascending beyond physical form. The Devourers can't consume what they can't touch." The commander roared and charged. Marcus met the attack head-on, using the larger being's momentum against him, a hunting trick that worked on large predators. The commander stumbled, crashing into an array of crystals. "Marcus!" Neri called. "The activation sequence, it needs both of us. But the power levels, there's no way to calibrate it in time. If we activate it now, what happens? Best case? We transcend as the architects did. Worst case? We tear the planet apart." More Void Hunters poured into the chamber, weapons charging. The commander regained his feet, his armor crackling with dark energy. They were out of options. Marcus reached for Neri's hand. "Together then?" Her fingers interlaced with his, their touch completing circuits older than their civilizations. Together. They pressed their joined hands against the beacon's surface. Light exploded through the chamber as reality itself seemed to twist. The Void Hunters screamed as their armor began to dissolve, dark energy consuming itself. Marcus felt his consciousness expanding, touching minds across light years. He saw the Devourers clearly now, not just physical entities, but gaps in reality itself, seeking to unmake creation. And he saw why the architects had chosen humans and Lumini. Together, they had the perfect balance of innovation and wisdom, instinct and knowledge. The beacon's light reached a blinding crescendo. The last thing Marcus saw before his physical form began to change was Neri's smile, her form already shifting into pure energy. They had found each other, just as the architects had planned. And together, they would light the way for both their species to evolve beyond the Devourer's reach. The human hunter and the Lumini scientist ceased to be what they were, becoming something new, something that could face the darkness between stars. And as their consciousness merged with the beacon's power, a signal shot out across the galaxy, a call to both their species, showing them the path to salvation. The hunt was over. The awakening had begun. The transformation was not what anyone expected. Instead of transcending physical form entirely, Marcus and Neri found themselves changed, enhanced but still fundamentally themselves. Their consciousness expanded beyond normal bounds while their bodies became vessels for the architect's power, wrapped in shells of living light. The beacon, Neri's voice echoed in Marcus's mind, her physical form radiating prismatic energy. "It didn't just change us. It's changing the whole planet." She was right. Throughout the vast chamber, reality was shifting. The walls had become transparent, revealing networks of energy coursing through the planet's crust. The Void Hunters who hadn't been destroyed were unconscious, their dark armor crumbling to reveal the various alien species beneath, all victims of the Devourer's influence. Marcus flexed his hand, watching patterns of light flow beneath his skin. We're not just weapons against the Devourers, are we? We're meant to save everyone they've corrupted. That's what made humans and Lumini special. Neri moved closer, her energy field harmonizing with his. Both our species believe in saving others, not just ourselves. The chamber's crystals suddenly pulsed with urgent patterns. Through their enhanced senses, they both understood, the Devourers had detected the beacon's activation. They were coming, far sooner than expected. They're scared, Marcus realized, reading the ancient data streaming through his consciousness. The architect's plan worked. We're proof that different species can evolve together instead of fighting each other. We're everything the Devourers want to prevent. Neri interfaced with the chamber's systems, her movements leaving trails of light in the air. The colony, your people. The Devourers will target them first. We have to evacuate. The ground shook as something massive entered orbit. Through their expanded awareness, they sensed it, a Devourer vanguard ship, larger than anything either of their species had ever encountered. It began firing weapons that distorted space itself, attempting to tear the planet apart before the transformation could spread. Marcus reached for the beacon's power, instinctively knowing what to do. The architects left us more than just weapons. They left us a chance to prove who we really are. His consciousness touched the minds of every colonist on the planet, while Neri connected to her people's ships hidden throughout the system. Together, they showed everyone the truth, about the Devourers, about the architects, about the choice facing all sentient life. Fight alone and fall, or stand together and evolve. The response was immediate. Colonial ships rose from hidden ports, their crews awakening to new awareness. Lumini vessels decloaked in high orbit, their advanced technology synchronizing with human determination. The beacon's power flowed through them all, offering the same transformation that Marcus and Neri had undergone. But the Devourer ship was overwhelming. Its weapons carved huge swaths through the assembled fleet, its very presence causing spatial distortions that threatened to tear reality apart. The colonists fought with incredible courage, their ships diving through impossible maneuvers to protect civilian transports. The Lumini vessels provided shields of pure energy, buying time for the evacuation. In the chamber, Marcus and Neri joined their consciousness fully, becoming a gestalt entity of human instinct and Lumini wisdom. Through their union, they discovered the beacon's true purpose, not just as a weapon or a tool of transformation, but as a key to unlocking the planet itself. Kepler 742b, Neri's thoughts merged with Marcus's. The architects didn't just hide their legacy here. They built this entire world as a failsafe. Marcus understood. The planet's violet forests, its strange crystals, the very core itself, all of it was one vast machine, waiting for the right combination of species to awaken it. Their transformation had started a chain reaction that couldn't be stopped. The Devourer ship seemed to realize this too late. It concentrated all its reality-warping weapons on the planet's surface, trying to stop what was coming. The assembled human and Lumini fleet moved as one to protect the world below, accepting devastating losses to buy just a few more minutes. In the chamber, Marcus and Neri poured their combined consciousness into the planetary systems. The ground began to crack, not from damage but from transformation. The violet forests uprooted themselves, revealing vast geometric structures beneath. The planet's crust shifted, sections rotating and realigning like a massive puzzle box. Through their shared awareness, they felt the sacrifice of every ship lost in orbit, the courage of every crew member fighting against impossible odds. Human and Lumini dying together, protecting something greater than themselves. Their emotions, their determination, their very life force fed into the planetary machine, accelerating its metamorphosis. The Devourer ship launched a final, desperate attack, a weapon designed to collapse the star itself. But it was too late. Kepler 742b split apart, its segments restructuring into something that defied comprehension. The planet hadn't been destroyed, it had become what it was always meant to be, a machine to remake reality itself. Marcus and Neri, still joined in consciousness, felt the power of an entire transformed world flow through them. They were no longer just two individuals, but the focal point of two species' combined potential, amplified by the architect's final gift. Above them, the Devourer ship's reality-warping weapons met something far stronger, the power of genuine unity, of different species choosing to face the darkness together. The trial by fire had forged something entirely new. And as the transformed planet turned its power toward the cosmic horror above, both Marcus and Neri knew that this was just the beginning. The transformed Kepler 742b hung in space like a magnificent geometric orchid, its reconstructed segments pulsing with energy that rewrote the laws of physics themselves. Through their shared consciousness, Marcus and Neri directed its power against the Devourer ship, watching as ancient technology clashed with cosmic horror. The ship's dark energy weapons, designed to unmake reality, met their match in the architect's final creation. Each attack was absorbed, analyzed, and reversed, the power of two united species proving stronger than the force of entropy itself. The massive vessel began to crack, light pouring from its wounds. But victory came with revelation. As the Devourer ship broke apart, Marcus and Neri touched the minds of its crew, not monsters, but beings who had given in to fear eons ago, accepting servitude to the void rather than facing extinction. Through their enhanced perception, they offered these beings a choice: continue serving the darkness or embrace transformation. This was the architect's true legacy, Neri's thoughts intertwined with Marcus's. Not just survival, but redemption. The response rippled through space as ship after ship of the Devourer fleet emerged from hyperspace, not to attack, but to witness. The crew of the destroyed Vanguard ship had broadcast their experience to the entire fleet. They had seen another way, a path beyond the binary choice of consume or be consumed. Marcus extended his consciousness through the planetary machine, his human instincts for adaptation blending perfectly with Neri's Lumini wisdom. Together, they showed the Devourer fleet the full scope of the architect's plan, a way for all species to transcend their limitations while keeping their essential selves. Your people were right to send you here, Marcus shared with Neri as they watched the transformation spread. Humans don't just survive, we help others survive too. And my people were right to watch and wait, she responded, her energy field harmonizing with his. We had the knowledge, but you had the spirit to use it properly. The space around Kepler 742b bloomed with light as ship after ship accepted transformation. The combined human Lumini fleet, still protecting the colony, witnessed the impossible, their former enemies becoming allies in the span of moments. The void between stars, once a domain of darkness, filled with new possibilities. But the greatest change was still to come. Through the planetary network, they detected others, dozens of worlds like Kepler 742b, waiting to be awakened. The architects hadn't built just one failsafe, but many, seeding the galaxy with the tools of salvation. Each world needed different species to work together, ensuring that unity wasn't just encouraged but required for survival. In the transformed chamber at the heart of the planet, Marcus and Neri began to understand their new role. They were prototypes, proof that humanity and Lumini could blend their strengths without losing their identity. Their union would show others the way. The hunting cabin seems a long way away now, Marcus mused, his consciousness stretching across light years while his transformed body still held Neri's hand. She laughed, the sound rippling through multiple dimensions. You still caught something that morning. Just not what you expected. Around them, the chamber had become a control center for the planetary machine, its crystals now interfaces to a network spanning the galaxy. Through it, they could sense other pairs of species beginning to find each other, drawn together by the architect's hidden influence. The gathered fleets began coordinating their next moves. The human colonists, their consciousness expanded but their determination unchanged, volunteered to help spread the word to other human worlds. The Lumini ships prepared to contact their own people, knowing their long vigil was finally over. And the transformed Devourer ships, their dark energy now converted to light, offered their knowledge of space lanes and hidden worlds. They would help find and awaken the other architect machines, working to save the very civilizations they had once hunted. Marcus and Neri stood at the heart of it all, their shared consciousness reaching out to guide and support the great transformation. They had become something new together, yet remained true to who they were, a hunter who protected life instead of taking it, and a scientist who had found wisdom in unity rather than pure knowledge. What now? Marcus asked, watching as ships of 3 different species worked together to stabilize a nearby star system. Neri's response carried equal parts joy and determination. Now we hunt for others like us. There are more pairs out there, more species meant to find each other. And together we light up the dark, Marcus finished, understanding perfectly. The transformed planet hummed with power, ready to serve its new purpose as a beacon of hope. Above, ships of former enemies worked in harmony, their crews learning to use their new shared awareness. And at the center of it all, a human and a Lumini stood together, their uncomplicated love having sparked a revolution in consciousness itself. Marcus Stone had started that morning hunting for breakfast in the violet forests of an alien world. Instead, he had found humanity's true destiny, not to conquer the stars, but to help heal them. Not to fight alone against the darkness, but to stand with others in the light. The legacy of 2 worlds had become the legacy of all worlds. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, the architect's consciousness smiled, knowing their great experiment had finally succeeded.